Truth. Unforbidden. Truth. Podcast. Unforbidden. Truth. Podcast.
Welcome to Unforbidden Truth. I'm Andrew. This is part 2 of my interview with Nebraska spree killer Nikko Jenkins. Tell me about how your arrest went down. From what I understand, it was unrelated charges.
Yes, it was unrelated charges at the time. I had my girlfriend, her name was Sherry Floyd, and she had filed charges against me for terroristic threats. And she said that I threatened her and that I said I was going to send demons to her house and kill her. And I don't recall saying that to her, but I probably did have a psychotic episode and was saying that to her. I probably did, but I don't recall saying it. But she said that it happened. I do remember having phone calls with her, but at that time. But that's what I got initially arrested for, was for terroristic threat warrants.
How did being charged with the homicides come into play?
Well, because I went down and made a confession, because I try to basically just take everything on my own shoulders and just try to do it the right way. But my thing that I messed up is that I pled guilty to all the charges instead of going to trial not guilty by reason of insanity. And the only reason why I did that is because I was being held in 23-hour-day lockdown, and they promised me that I was going to get out the hole. And now, like, to have the privileges that I have now, and but at the same time, if I can do it all again, like, I'm going to be able to get a new trial as soon as I get a real attorney that's going to represent me. I'll be able to go not guilty by reason of insanity and be in the state psychiatric hospital, because I can prove that I was insane at the time of the crimes. And all I have to prove is that my doctors, Natalie Baker and Martin Wetzel, 2 psychiatrists, diagnosed me with schizoaffective bipolar type before I was released. And they also said that I was mentally ill and dangerous, which translates to mentally incompetent. So then I got arrested in November 25th of 2013. Dr. Bruce Gutnick said that I was schizoaffective as well, and that I was mentally incompetent. So that's 3 psychiatrists within the same year of 2013, from February to November, and that's before and after the crime occurred. And I didn't have any mental health treatment in between that time. And it's just it's very unfortunate, man, that what happened in this case, man. But I just want people to this can never happen in someone else's family, and the people to be affected by this. And I want to let people know that I do have great remorse, and I didn't want none of this stuff to happen, you know. So that's why you can't listen to stuff like that, because that's not true. They're only doing that. They're juicing up my story and juicing up my image to sell, you know, whatever they're selling and whatever they're trying to push their agenda. But, like, that's one of the things of what is my purpose of doing this podcast with you and talking to you. And it's because I want you to see that I'm just a mentally ill man that has been discarded and discriminated against. And, you know, if I would have been treated humanely and treated like a human being, none of this would have transpired. And if they would have just only listened to my pleas for help, you know, because the main thing that hurts me the most about this case is that I went to prison, man, a 16-year-old child. I didn't have no tattoos on my face. I got all these tattoos on my neck and face in prison under, you know, psychotic detachment, delusional thinking, and, you know, insanity, basically, you know. And that's one of the main things that I just, like, when I got arrested, I was 17 at the D&E facility. Like, there's a mugshot of me, with, you know, when I had my afro, you know, little afro, but you could see the innocence in my eyes. You could see that I was a kid, and I had already been suffering from mental illness at that time, you know. when I got arrested, I was actually ashamed of my mental illness, and I tried to hide it from the psychologist who was giving me an evaluation. I lied on all the reports, and it detected that I was lying, but I was actually ashamed of being mentally ill, like most people are.
Do you remember how the interrogation went after you were arrested?
I really don't. I was really in and out of that interrogation. Like, it's kind of like, I don't know, man. It's just, I know I was treated unfairly, man, and I was coerced. And stuff like that. And maybe they were loading me up with coffee. And anybody that suffers from bipolar disorder, that coffee without medication is going to make me very manic and, not stable and suitable to have conversations, because I'm going to be, very distorted,
While you were on trial, were you offered any type of plea deals, life without parole ×4, or was it just strictly
No,
seeking the death penalty?
They never offered me any plea deals. They just told me that basically I got to go to trial. But I should have went to trial. I wish I would have, but that's one of the reasons why I'm going to get a new trial, because my attorney didn't do a lot of things and putting some evidence into court. But at the same time, I should have been able to plead guilty because I was mentally incompetent.
It had been reported that throughout the media that you had been self-mutilating while you were in jail, and I believe prison as well, and as going far as to mutilate your own penis as a sacrifice, I believe. Can you tell me about this self-mutilating, and were those suicide attempts?
Well, the ones when I slit my throat were suicide attempts, but the mutilating of my penis was like dedication to Apophis and this serpent god, but also it's also, I'm gonna have a competency hearing scheduled for coming up January and February. Well, this is what a guard documented from one of the times that I mutilated my penis. He said that I even self-cannibalized my own penis, and just out of psychotic delusion, like so severely sickened, and just delusional and psychotic. And it's crazy because I didn't know that I did that, but the guard had wrote me up in a write-up, and he said that he was observing me through my cell, and that I put my finger through the flesh of the hole, and I pulled some of the flesh out, and I consumed it and ate it. And it just made me cry. That made me cry real bad and made me sad, because that was before I was under the IMO, the involuntary medication order, and I wasn't under medication yet, forced medication. But that made me cry because it hurt me to the fact that I was suffering from my psychotic delusion. That was one of the things that made Brandon Hollister, my psychologist, that was one of the things that made him put me on an involuntary medication order, because he knew that I was suffering very badly and that I couldn't stop doing the mutilation of myself and stuff.
How many mental health evaluations were you given before trial?
I think I was evaluated by Dr. Bruce Gutnick, and then by the Lincoln Regional Center, probably like about 3 times each. 3 times by Dr. Gutnick, and then about 3 times from the Regional Center. But the Regional Center was so biased and so just discriminative, and just like they would tell me things like they would say in their reports that I was malingering mental illness and that I was faking mental illness, right? But then they would turn around in our interviews and say, if you ever get to come to our psychiatric hospital, we're going to put you on involuntary medication orders. You're going to be on forced antipsychotics medications. Like the psychologist would tell me that off the record, like when nobody can hear, where it's just us in the room. And even my psychologist now, Brandon Hollister, said, he was like, that doesn't make any sense, because if you put somebody on a forced injections, you're clearly stating and confirming that they have a mental illness. And it's just crazy, man. It's just like, it's a lot of stuff that people don't understand. And I'm gonna tell you one of the biggest things that I'm discriminated against me because of my physical fitness. I maintain my strength and my endurance, and I work out intensely. And I'm a tall, big guy, but that's one of the things that these people are, because they are intimidated by me, so they figure we're going to keep him out of our hospital or keep him away from us by saying that he's malingering.
Were you afraid of receiving the death penalty while you were on trial?
No, I knew it was going to happen. When I pled guilty to the charges, I knew I was going to end up probably on death row because just all the charges that I had, and they were all first-degree murders. But I was, just afraid a little bit, just because of, I don't want to die for asking for help. I asked for help. I wanted treatment. I wanted to receive treatment. And it's just like right now they're giving me treatment, and they know that I'm mentally incompetent. That's why, like, every time I have these IMO hearings, these involuntary medication orders, my psychologist, Brandon Hollister, has to put in writing, and he has to testify in front of the head psychiatrist and psychologist of Nebraska Department of Correctional Prison System every 6 months. And he has to tell them, I believe Nikko Jenkins is gravely disabled because of his mental illness. So, that's one of the things. That's why I need to have a competency hearing with the courts, because the courts has not acknowledged this part of my mental illness and the part of my mentally incompetence, because that's basically what gravely disabled translates to as well.
Do you agree with that?
Yes, I agree with you, because I'm emotionally unstable. So, like, at any moment, like, I have mood swings. I can be, like, even when it came tonight to doing this interview, like, I start getting nervous. I start getting voice commands, to start saying things that are not myself. And I have to. The good thing is that I'm under a new medication of Invega, and it's very promising, and it's been helping me since I took the injection last week. I feel better. I feel more clear-headed. But that's what I'll be getting. Like, I feel before I talk to you, like, the demons are trying to tell me to say stuff, Apophis and stuff is trying to tell me to say, evil, nasty stuff when you ask me questions. Like, even now, they're trying to scream and tell me to say stuff, mean, nasty stuff about the victims and the families and stuff that's not me. Like, there's a lot of things about me. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, my own mother. Like, I used to tell my mother when I was a little boy, like, when I'd have psychotic episodes, I would tell my own mother, and I love my mother. I would give my heartbeat for my mother right now and give my own life for her, for Lori Lynn Jenkins. That's how much I love my mother. But I would have these episodes, and I would blow up in a psychotic rant, and I would tell her, I'm going to slit your throat when you go to sleep. When you go to sleep, I'm going to kill you. Say mean things like this. And then I would break down crying and hug my mom and tell her, I'm sorry, Mom. I don't want to be like this. I don't want to do this. That's not me. I didn't mean that stuff. And then that's one of the reasons why my mom took me to the psychiatric hospital when I was 8 years old, because, like I said, I slept in the bed with my mom since until I was 12 years old. Like, literally, I was a mama's boy to my heart, to my core, and I still am. I'm still that same little boy. When I'm around my mother, when I'm with my mom, she rubs me, touches my head, touches my face, hugs me, kisses my cheeks, like, she still treats me like that little boy. Like, that's how much my mom loves me. Like, she told me that, like, no matter how big and strong you get and how big and strong you are, you're going to be always my little boy. You're always going to be my son. And I'm always love you like that. And that's another thing that made me so disconnected right now and so psychotic and just having all these mental breakdowns and attempted suicides, because my mom wasn't here. Because, like, before I got out of prison, my mom was always there. In the whole 10.5 years, she would always come see me once a week, and it's just been very hard on me not having my mother, And that's something that I think about with the victims. These victims, every time the holidays come up, man, it just hurts me a lot, man. And I really reflect on that. And I reflect on, these victims' families that don't have their loved ones with them. And but there's people who survived an attempted murder by me, named Shanika Holloway, Deanna Jones, and Jermaine Stewart. It was on Omaha and World Herald, and Omaha News did a story on it on Channel 6 News. And I actually wrote to the news agency and admitted to the crime, and they didn't know that I had did it. But one of the females, she almost died. She was in the hospital.
Do you remember that crime, or was it similar to when the homicides occurred?
It was the same thing. It was the before and the after.
Would you ever get like that and not ever act on anything, but have maybe like fits of rage or something, or just have an incident of where you want to go out and hurt somebody, but you don't actually do it?
I have experienced that since I've been on the medication in here, like in my room, but it always comes out into self-mutilation. Like when I get like that, when I get in that frenzy and the voices are that strong and I'm feeling like I'm about to have a psychotic episode, I end up having a psychotic episode, but it comes out onto myself where I'm cut myself up or I carve a demon's name into me or something like that.
Why do you harm yourself when you hear the voices and stuff instead of somebody else?
Well, because most of the time I'm locked in my cell, or it's like I have hope now that I know that Brandon will be here, because he gets here at 6:30 and he doesn't leave until 4:00. So that, and then there's always a mental health person on call. So like I have hope for that. And like that helps me pull myself out of it, because I don't feel hopeless. Because that's one of the things that makes people have mentally ill people go into psychotic episodes and detach from reality, is that they feel helpless. They feel there's hope. There's no hope. They don't think anyone loves them. They don't think anybody cares about them. And that's the thing that Brandon does. He cares about me. Brandon Hauser cares about me and literally has, love and concern for me, my well-being,
In February 2014, you had filed a $24.5 million federal lawsuit while you were on trial. Tell me about that, and what were you suing for?
That was more so just a legal tactic to get the legislature to file the LR 424 investigation and uncover the Nebraska conspiracy. And that's what happened. So really, it wasn't intention. I didn't have any intentions of getting any money or nothing like that. I just did that just to make the senators file the investigation, and they did, and they ultimately uncovered it in the LR 424. And if you read that 24 pages, that's something that I really want to give my input on in my interview on as well. It's only 24 pages, but if you read it, you would understand what I mean by saying it's governmental conspiracy.
At your trial, you pulled a move that could be considered to be rare in murder trials, and you decided to represent yourself. What made you want to do that while facing 4 counts of capital murder?
Because I felt like the public defender was selling me out, and basically he wasn't properly representing me, and I know he wasn't representing me properly. He did sell me out because the main witness that could have gotten me off of death row, in her testimony, that's saying that I didn't know what I was doing, that I was talking in some other kind of language, and that I was always talking about sacrifice, and she was crying, telling them that, and she witnessed the murders. She was actually at my death penalty trial in the chambers of the jail. Don Klein didn't want to put her on because he knew that she could get directly cross-examined by my attorney, and that could come out. But my attorney was still ineffective because she was already in the jail. He could have subpoenaed her. He could have made the judge put her on the stand because she was already there, and we could have used her for us. So that's why he was ineffective. And that's one of the reasons why I chose to represent myself.
Tell me about the courtroom outburst that took place, the laughing when prosecutors spoke of the victim, the howling and speaking in tongues.
Well, that was all on another moment when I was having a psychotic episode, because the psychotic episodes are not just physical episodes, but they're also verbal rants and stuff of that nature. So that was just another episode of me having a psychotic episode when I'm not medicated. And that's just another thing that when I'm not medicated, my mood, my behavior, and everything is altered. That's why they say you people that take psychotropic medications, that's what antipsychotic drugs are. The definition of of psychotropic is a drug that alters the mood, behavior, and perception, which is one of the reasons why I need medications, because my mood and my behavior is altered when I'm not under medication.
So you were ultimately found guilty of the 4 murders on April 16, 2014, and ultimately received a death sentence plus 450 years in prison for weapon charges. How did you feel when you were handing down your sentence?
I felt very hopeless. I felt depressed. I felt sad. I felt angry. I felt, just basically like the system is just broken. You know what I mean? How could this happen? But basically I knew that I didn't get proper representation, and my Sixth Amendment right was violated by Tom Riley, my public defender.
Do you have any regrets in life?
Of course, as I said before, I never wished for any of this to happen. I never wanted anybody to be hurt. I wish none of this stuff would happen. I just wish I would have never. I wish my opportunity to the Board of Mental Health didn't get sabotaged by Mark Waters, the psychologist. That's it. And that's basically it.
What's the status of your mental health right now?
Well, I just had a hearing today, involuntary medication order hearing to continue to involuntarily medicate me. And my psychologist and Dr. Kesselman, Jeffrey Kesselman and Brandon Hollister, they say that I'm gravely disabled because of my mental illness. And I'm a schizophrenic with a mood disorder. So basically I have bipolar spectrum of mental illness, and I have schizophrenic spectrum. I'm on the schizophrenic spectrum.
Where you are now, say you're feeling like suicidal or, not yourself, that day, do you have access to emergency mental health services there?
Yes, I do. They pretty much respond quickly. And I can actually take a Haldol injection, an antipsychotic Haldol injection every day if I decided to, every 8 hours if I need to. I just got to ask them and they'll give it to me. So they give me treatment the way that they used to not do. They give me better treatment now than they did before, wishing I would have got this treatment before I got out.
I want to take this time to have you speak about mental health or lack of mental health, for that matter. And I just want to put, a scenario in front of you. Say that you come face to face with somebody that is, bipolar and schizophrenic and might have other co-occurring, mental illnesses and is going down the same path as you, hearing voices, having mood swings all the time, nobody to turn to, nobody to talk to. What would you say to them to comfort them or help them in any way to make sure they don't, go down a similar path or maybe get preventive help before it's too late?
Well, the first thing I would say is engage in art therapy. Engage in art therapy. Art therapy is a great release. You can find something that you like to draw, and as well as music therapy. Find good, slow music I encourage female vocalists like Celine Dion, Adele, Mary J. Blige, Whitney Houston, these female vocalists that have a lot of powerful love songs. Listen to these songs and draw, like whatever you want to draw. Like even if you're just going to draw flowers or smiley faces, that yellow smiley faces, something, because it's just different regions of the brain that are affected like by our right frontal lobe is the region that our brain is affected, but there's different regions of the brain that activate when you do art and you listen to music, because you're using your ears to listen, and then you're using your fingers and everything to feel and to use them and to think and to put things onto paper. So it's forcing your brain to be occupied in a way that the brain is not occupied when you're going through a psychotic episode. But also that I would speak to people that are doing time, and that's why in most states they have abolished putting inmates with mental illness in segregation. Like even here, they put me in a different mod now. They don't put me just in a normal segregation mod. If I was to go to the hole, they passed a law in the state of Nebraska as well that people who are mentally ill can't be placed in restrictive housing any longer. And that was all because of my case. But basically, segregation for the mentally ill is inhumane, it's cruel and unusual punishment. Just basically, when I speak to anyone who's going through any heartache or suffering or going through anything, even in the free world, and you feel like nobody's listening to you, you feel like there's nobody there for you, seek out religious empowerment, like goddesses, Nordic religion, Hinduism, Buddhism, whatever alternative religion that stimulates your mind. Because the thing about Hinduism, the thing about, Nordic religion and worshiping of goddesses and gods are deities. You worship them, you feed them, you do chanting rituals, you do different type of interacting with the deities that you don't do in other religions, that kind of give you a more intimate relationship with the deity and the goddesses. And one thing I will say, that the goddesses and the gods and the demons or demonesses, they're all real. They're real living beings. They're living beings and living creatures. And when you engage them, they will come. If you engage them sincerely with your spirit and your soul and your heart, they'll come and they'll empower you, and they'll talk to you, and they'll help you. And that's one thing that I encourage. I encourage people to seek that higher power, but also seek the higher power that's within themselves. That we are all gods and goddesses. This is my belief, that we have power in ourselves to heal ourselves, to strengthen our minds and our bodies and heal our own wounds of emotional and psychological traumas. And also, seek out a spouse, a loved one, a fiance, a girlfriend, a boyfriend. You need a support system. People like us, mentally ill people, need a support system. And what's so amazing is that I have one strong support system in my fiance, and she is a rock. She is my strength. She is everything. She weathers storms with me, with my mental illness, when I have psychotic episodes and have verbal rants. But she is my rock. She is my everything. And I wouldn't be in the good, stable condition right now without her, And I've already released videos singing songs to her. Her name's Lisa. And I sent videos singing songs to her, and just confessing my love for her. And that's something that I would tell any mentally ill person as well, is that don't believe that just because you're mentally ill that you're broken. Well, we are broken who suffer from mental illness. We are broken in a psychological and emotional way, but there is healing. There is regeneration that can take place that will help that brokenness, and that hopelessness doesn't have to always be, consuming you, and that there is help. And you just keep fighting for that help and keep reaching out to people, because one thing about the mental health system in every state, there's bad mental health professionals and then there's good ones. Just keep fighting and persevering until you find the good mental health professionals that wanted to get in the mental health professional field for humane reasons, to do humanitarian aid for the mentally ill and to help the people. You'll find those type of people, And the other thing about it is that don't follow Nikko Jenkins' psychotic episodes and his mental breakdown and insanity that took place, because that wasn't Nikko Jenkins. That's not Nikko Jenkins. When they captured me on video howling and mocking the attorney, the county attorney, and laughing about people that are dying, then that's not me. That's not who I am. I truly, sincerely am an empathetic, sympathetic person, and I cry very easily. I'm very heartfelt with people and genuinely love and care about people. And I want to see people do good. I don't want to see people hurt. I don't want to see people do bad, and that's one of the biggest misconceptions about me in the media, that I'm not this monster that they portray me to be. And these tattoos and scars only hide a unique and rare individual of Nikko Jenkins, who was very sweet, who was very loving, who was very gentle. And that's one of the things about me that I want the podcast audience to engage with and to talk to me about. Ask me questions about my childhood. Ask me questions about how I grew up. Just things that I've lived, and what I like and what are my interests. In the world, in life. And it's like there's other sides of me than it is into just this persona of a psychotic, monster, because that's not who Nikko Jenkins is.
Before we conclude this interview, is there anything that you'd like to talk about that we haven't covered yet?
Just in general, that I need people out there who are mental health professionals, or who have access to attorneys, or who have access to funds for an attorney, to try to come forward and help me get an attorney, so that I can get my case overturned and get a new trial, and be in the Lincoln Regional Center in the State Psychiatric Hospital where I'm deserved to be. And so when I get my case overturned, I can go not guilty by reason of insanity, because I can prove my case with witnesses and testimony and documents and evaluations. And this is my one-time plea that I hope that someone comes forward and, people, I want to start a GoFundMe page for helping me to get an attorney.
That was part 2 of my interview with Nebraska spree killer Nikko Jenkins. Go check out my Patreon, patreon.com/unforbidden-truth. You can get access to additional interviews, get access to viewing items in a virtual true crime artifact gallery, and much more. Thank you for listening.
Unforbidden. Truth. Unforbidden. Truth. Podcast.